The art is alive at this downtown Milwaukee hotel. On this episode of The Arts Page, meet Jeff Zimpel, the artist in residence at St. Kate, the Arts Hotel. Life skills through stage skills. That's the motto of this local theater academy. See how a Madison artist wants to give new life to old barns. And learn how this creative Wisconsin couple inspire each other every day. The Arts Page starts right now. Welcome to the Arts Page. I'm Sandy Max. There is a patron saint of artists, and her name is Saint Catherine. She was a nun and an artist herself, a champion of the creative process. At St. Kate, the Arts Hotel, a play on the name St. Catherine, they provide a platform for artists to display their work to the Milwaukee community, from a lobby gallery, a black box theater, and installations and displays throughout the building. The inaugural artist in residence at the St. Kate is Jeff Zimpel. He has created a welcoming studio space where he invites people to participate in his ecological art. Zimpel specializes in creating paints out of natural elements, then applying them to resin. He then photographs those resins, creating these stunning images you see here. Come with us now. Visit Jeff Zimpel at his living studio at the St. Kate.
I tell people that working at St. Kate's a very dreamy environment. Walking into the lobby, the first thing you see is Big Piney. It looks like a driftwood horse, but it's more than that. And it encourages deeper looking and second looks and third looks. Around every corner there's art. But then you also have kind of this art of hospitality, this amazing group of people who are so good at welcoming people. The one thing I can depend on is that there's a rhythm of people that course through this place every single day. It's this interesting mixture of people staying at the hotel who are looking for an outstanding experience, but then you have the passers through, the people who just are on their way to a Bucks game or just finishing up a play at the Milwaukee Rep. It makes me, who I'm mostly interested in compositions of participation and getting people to engage in the creative process. As an artist, I have an ideal situation for visitors because it's a hotel. They're coming in opened up. They're coming in ready to engage. And then you also get people who are looking to collaborate. Artists from all over town stream through here. It's this swirling atmosphere of art and thought. I grew up in Green Bay, but during the summers, my grandparents had a place up in northern Wisconsin, in a place called Forest County, more specifically outside of Crandon. And so growing up, being surrounded by nature, playing for me was going and tromping around the swamp. Playing for me was going into forests and usually coming out with sticks that looked like staffs and colorful rocks, and filled up my bedroom with nature, and the most vibrant nature. When I went back for graduate school and started to really question what the painting I was up to was all about at a really deep historical level, like what is this paint? What is this pigment? Where does it come from? I kind of snapped back to my upbringing and where I found a lot of vibrancy from nature. And so as I wrote my graduate thesis, I actually went up back to where I grew up and would go down different logging roads, find some sort of earth color, and then go back and write a section of my thesis. And so it was this deep dive and an acknowledgement of nature and where kind of the stuff of art comes from. Studio Ecology is a year-long artist in residence, where I'm working under the premise that the studio is alive. What happens to me as an artist? What happens to my daily practice if I just work under the maybe poetic premise that my materials, the space, the artifacts, it has some sort of agency, is alive? And so studio ecology is as much a mindset and meditation as it is the name of this studio and this project. Paint is a substance that allows us to best communicate our intentions, our feelings. It starts with color that comes from nature. Most of the color came from me, but over the course of my time here at St. Kate, I've received many gifts from people all over the world. What I do is encourage them to help me set it in motion. And so we take color off the wall, add it to the mortar and pestle, crush it and work it until it's a fine powder. And then we get to wake it up with oil. We work that oil into the dust. And this powder here comes from a place called Plum Lake, which is at the tip top of Wisconsin. And it's a beautiful environment. What I've found is the healthier the environment, the healthier the ecosystem, the more color is just riding on the surface of stream beds, the surface of the forest floor, colors everywhere. And so one of the things that I like to do is trap that paint in resin. As the resin cures, it gives off heat, and when that heat kicks in, your mark continues to move and change, even within the resin. And so I observe it slowly, month after month, photograph after photograph. All of this is moving to a culmination of the residency with a one-day conference called the Living Studio. And it is an excuse to get people together and gather and think critically and creatively about what our creative spaces are, how they're composed, what happens when you think about your creative spaces as compositions in and of themselves. And so it's going to be a conference, but a conference led by an artist. But it's going to be a perfect way to wrap up this project and the Living Studio.
You can meet Jeff Zimpel at his St. Kate studio through August 20th. First Stage Theater Academy has been teaching kids theater classes in Milwaukee since 1992. And their goals are not just to bring up the next generation of performers through family-friendly theater, but also emphasize creative thinking and confidence. First Stage is Milwaukee's second largest theater company, right behind the Milwaukee Repertory Theater. And they give young people a place to be themselves and grow into charismatic creative adults.
First Stage is an equity theater for family audiences. We have a theater training program for young people ages 3 through 18 where we focus on teaching life skills through stage skills. So they're learning about the work of theater and what it takes to be an actor, but more importantly, they're learning about themselves, becoming more comfortable in their bodies, developing communication, collaboration, empathy, right? Really important things just to help them be better humans, I think.
A lot of what First Stage does is just sort of boosting children's voices and the voices of youth through theater and giving them a space in theater.
About First Stage, something that you wouldn't know until you've spent time here is being in the room and in the space with incredible performers and artists and designers, and being able to work with them, bounce ideas off of them, and get feedback is something that's very, very powerful about working at First Stage as a young performer, because there are all those people you can look up to and learn from in many different ways, many different fields.
My origin story with First Stage is kind of untraditional. I wasn't one of those really energetic kids whose parents didn't know what to do with them, so they sent them into theater camp, right? I actually was like unbearably shy as a young person. I was a little bit of a shrinking violet, but I had a great imagination, and I was really sensitive as a kid, and I felt things very deeply. So my mom, who was an educator, said, why don't we enroll her in theater classes at 5 years old? I blossomed throughout the years, through the academy, through Young Company.
I joined First Stage when I was 6. I started with First Stage Summer Academy. I came for 1 week and then went every summer up until this point, and that's been 11 years now.
Your only hope for escape is the time machine.
My favorite story about when I first joined First Stage is that I went into class, and beginning of a First Stage day, we all take 3 breaths together. And I left that room in tears, and I got into my mom's car later in the day, and she's like, oh no, what's wrong, are you okay? And I was like, I found the place I'm meant to be. And that's my favorite story about when I joined First Stage. That's what it's like. That's what it's like every day.
Some of my friends that were in theater were like, you should check out First Stage. It's a super great thing. And it was exciting, it was fun. I immediately just felt so at home at First Stage. I've found my place. Like First Stage is a spot that I want to continually come back to, and I want to continue to be part of this community.
Angel, what skills do you think First Stage has provided you?
Communication. I feel like First Stage has really helped me build those skills as an actor and as a student, but also being able to engage with other people in a very empathetic and very honest and compassionate way. The people at First Stage are what make it First Stage, and that is your friends and your teachers and your mentors, and then being an older student, the younger people that you find yourself in a leadership role to them, and getting to sort of help them step into First Stage the way others helped you.
The skill I think I've gained the most from at working at First Stage is confidence. In the rehearsal room, in a class, it's always an atmosphere where you are supported and everything's all right. So it makes it much easier to grow confidence in a space where everyone's kind to you, no matter what you do.
Working with young people and being able to witness their growth in confidence, in becoming a better version of themselves, a more confident version, and realizing that their voice matters in the rehearsal hall, in the classroom, and if they can translate that into the understanding that their voice matters in the world, it's an incredible gift.
If you're thinking about doing theater and you don't know whether it's right for you or not, I say, give it a try nonetheless. And no matter who you are or what your skill set is, there's a place for you in that team. There's a place for everyone.
To me, I feel like theater is such an intersection of so many things, of music and performance and literature and art and history, that you will find some extra bit in theater or in acting that sparks your interest. Give it a try out theater, see what works for you, and see where you can find yourself in theater.
Some people are born to be heroes, but that's not me. No, no, no.
Learn more about First Stage and their training programs by going to their website, firststage.org. Next, we meet a Madison artist who lovingly demolishes old Wisconsin barns bit by bit, then brings new art to life using all of those elements. His name is Jeremiah Logeman, a completely self-taught reclamation artist. Our colleagues from the Milwaukee PBS web series My Wisconsin Backyard show you what's special about his artistic process.
This is how ugly the stuff looks. But then they turn into something like that. This was a dairy barn in Cross Plains, Wisconsin. And these are oak barn beams that are 150 years old. And it's going to be a dining room table for a guy in Mugwanago. One night, just looking on the internet, I saw a picture of this American flag made out of barnwood, and I just had to have it. And I thought, well, it can't be that hard to make. So I drove around the countryside looking for barns. I needed a gray barn and a white barn and a red barn, and I found those 3 colors. I don't have any training. I didn't have any schooling on any of this. I didn't have a mentor. My friend taught me how to weld for a few hours once. But after that, it's just like making mistakes, and yeah, I guess you learn faster from the mistakes. There's about a half a barn here. Usually a barn is, 10, 20 tons worth of material. And it takes about 350 hours to take one down, starting with the shingles, and then the roofing boards, and then the siding, and the framing, and even the nails. I save all the nails and put on a trailer. I try to use every bit of it. The majority of what I do is barn wood. For one, this is Wisconsin, it's what we have. And the stories behind this material are run pretty deep. I've had people from like England and New Zealand call me and say, "Oh my gosh, that was my great uncle so-and-so's barn, and I saw this on the internet." This is the original City of Madison flag. I think I'm sharing history. I think a lot of this material, well, I mean, it would just go in a landfill if I wasn't using it. Then it's a whole nother thing when you can save the stories as well. I picked up a bag of litter on a trip. So all the litter represents where the national parks are in the lower 48. If I can save more than a few other people, then I can just it makes up for the people that maybe aren't recycling. And I feel like I can impact a little more than the average household. I don't know what it's like to live in some other states that aren't that cool, but our state's awesome and people love it. So it's cool that I'm kind of just showing people what we already have, redoing it a different way.
For nearly 30 years, artists Wentz and Sandra Martinez have owned and operated Martinez Studio in Door County. Sandra creates paintings, then Wentz weaves those paintings into tapestries. We get to know this collaborative couple in this feature from the Milwaukee PBS program, Adelante.
Antes de conocer a Sandra personalmente, yo ya le había hecho un trabajo por medio de sus amigas de aquí de Wisconsin. Ellas conocían Oaxaca, ellas conocían mi pueblo, y ellas le sugirieron a Sandra que debería de tener uno de sus diseños en tejido.
Esto cambió toda mi vida profesional, mi vida personal, mi vida de ser un humano en este mundo. Porque yo crecí en departamentos en Milwaukee.
Por suerte, me tocó hacer la pieza. Lo mandamos de regreso cuando lo terminé. Y como los 6 meses después, llega Sandra y las amigas tocando la puerta, buscándome a mí para colaborar en más trabajos. Y esto pasó en 1988.
La más importante evolución, yo creo, por cualquier artista es maestros, mentor, que pueden llenarte de fe, de que las cosas que tú quieres hacer con tu arte vale.
Ya a la edad de los 9 años ya empecé a entrarle al telar poco a poco. Y afortunadamente a los 14 años me dieron una beca para ir a estudiar a la Ciudad de México en un taller nacional de tapiz, especialmente que se dedicaba a promover el tapiz como arte. Y ahí cambió toda mi vida. Ahí empecé a darme cuenta que nada es imposible de tejer. Puedo tejer cualquier dibujo, cualquier diseño.
Estos sentimientos de libre es que quiero. Y más bonito cuando yo pase un dibujo a Wentz para tejer como esto. Y qué él va a hacer con su propio corazón, propio talento, propio material.
Sandra trabaja de una manera también que produce unos trabajos, un grupo de pinturas, un grupo de diseños, y ya juntos empezamos a ver cuáles quedarían bien en tejido. Ya escogemos los colores, pero cuando ella me da el trabajo ya para tejer, me da una libertad tan bonita que yo disfruto tanto, porque así le pongo yo mis propios toques, ¿no? Al tapete, para que tenga una vida así de los dos.
Quiero algo en mi vida que puedo hacer que es mío, pero también da libertad a Wentz de hacerlo a él. Entonces, es muy personal, como todo el arte, yo creo. Y este tipo de libertad está muy saludable por humanos.
El material que yo uso es el material tradicional de Oaxaca. Es hilo hecho a mano de una cría de borregos que se les llama churro. Es la misma cría que tienen los navajos, que usan los navajos en sus trabajos. El hilado yo no lo hago, pero ya el teñido, escogiendo los colores, los diseños, lleva bastante tiempo.
Me gusta arte abstracto por eso. Tú puedes entrar, tú puedes ver diferentes cosas que la persona que lo hizo. Y no es estúpida si tú vistes algo diferente que yo. Otra vez, es libertad de hacer, de ver.
Es un sentir muy enorme, muy agradable, ver que la gente que se lleva básicamente un pedazo de nuestra vida, especialmente cuando es un diseño de Sandra, porque es de 2 personas ahora. En Nuevo México hay mucha gente que visita México, entonces ya sabe mucho más de lo que la gente sabe de aquí, pero es muy bonito también enseñar, exponer a la gente de aquí mi cultura, nuestra cultura mexicana, nuestra cultura indígena, especialmente yo porque soy de Oaxaca, ¿no? Y la gente le gusta mucho.
Esto es uno de mis favoritos, porque cuando Wentz fue mirando las pinturas que yo terminé en esta temporada, y él dice esto, y quiero hacerlo grande, 6 por 6 pies. Y yo digo, ¿vas a hacerlo tan grande? Pero cuando estás colaborando en la manera que Wentz y yo estamos conectados, entiendes y lo escuchas de tu colaborador. Y él fue exactamente correcto. Cuando fue terminado, esta pieza nos dio muchos premios y nos ayudó muchísimo en unas cosas profesionales.
El trabajo que he hecho más grande me tomó 13 meses. Y ese tapiz está en la colección permanente del Museo de Arte de México en Chicago.
La pieza también que él tiene en el museo en Chicago. Mismo, él quería tejer esto por años, no de veras casi 20 años. Y nunca tuvo el material, tiempo, ni telar suficiente grande. Y un momento llegó, tuvimos correcto telar, él dice, voy a hacerlo. Y otra vez yo digo, híjoles, van a tomar. Pero mira, ahora este diseño, este tapete, está en el Museo Nacional de Mexicano.
Es como un reto que siempre me ha gustado. Así en el trabajo y también como en la vida.
Una cosa que disfruto muchísimo en nuestro trabajo juntos es que él no está replicando mis pinturas. Es un esqueletón de la pintura. Y adentro de estas partes, Wentz está libre de correr.
Especialmente con los detallitos que le pongo yo para que tenga una calidad, un carácter único.
Pero la cosa que Wentz hace con esto es algo que yo no tengo control. Mi sorpresa, me enamoré siempre. Cada pieza de mío que yo tengo de Wentz está tan especial. Ni puedo imaginar las cosas que Wentz puede imaginar de poner en el trabajo. Es respeto y amor inmenso por Wentz.
Sí, y trabajando con los trabajos de estándar nos conectamos muy bien. Cuando hago su trabajo siento que soy parte de eso, soy parte de su trabajo. Cuando conocí a Sandra solamente pintaba en blanco y negro. A mí me gustan mucho los colores y poco a poco fuimos formando este equipo que tenemos ahora.
Qué increíble fue que tú encontraste un hombre indígena de México talentoso y bueno y generoso y bonito y guapo y feliz. Entonces así cambiamos, así pasamos amor en nuestra cultura. Y para mí esto es la más importante cosa que hicimos, más que el arte.
Ahí empezó todo. Pensé que iba a trabajar unas piezas nada más de ella, todavía sigo trabajando para ella.
Ay, español, ay.
Fue una broma.
Gracias.
Thank you for watching The Arts Page. I'm Sandy Max. Please join us the first Thursday of every month for a half hour full of art on The Arts Page.